The bottom line is I care because I'm tired of losing my friends. I could sit here, we could talk for a half an hour, and I could just name the people that were close to me that I've lost, whether it's to suicide, whether they might even still be alive, but PTSD makes them a shell of what they were, and cancer. The number of firefighters that I've known that have lost their lives to cancer. If you're the chief of an organization, you're a leader in your department, and you're not making sure that you protect your people's blind side, you're negligent in your duty. If we don't do all we can to protect our people, then we need to get used to the fact that we're going to continue to lose firefighters.
The conversations behind these doors are not what you think.
Engine 4, residential fire. Engine 313, engine 311, engine 3.
People think they know what firefighters run into. They almost never see what we carry home. The public sees the response. This show is about the costs.
Curiosity catches us all. There is much more.
Season 1 brought to you by Spoke. Learn more at spokemovie.com.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Unseen Exposures. We're here in Iowa. I'm Amy, and
I'm Greg.
And
I'm Frank.
This is the man of the moment, of the hour, of the week, and it's this mental health symposium put on by first responders.
Let me help you out. The First Responder Center for Excellence.
Thank you.
Yes.
The FRCE.
Yes.
We are a proud affiliate of the National Fallen Firefighter Foundation.
Yes.
And we are, so the other partner that we have in this symposium, right, we're in Iowa now, at the University of Iowa, is the University of Iowa, which is why we are here, because the university has been a loyal partner in us with some of our mental health modules. And the Dean of Education, Dan Clay. So normally when you get a partnership with a university, you might meet a dean or you might meet somebody high up on the food chain, and then they tell you, okay, I'm busy, so I'm going to have you, this other person will take over. Not this guy. So Dan was in he was in Nashville last year for the symposium we had there, and he's here, and he has stayed involved and engaged every step of the way. So he's an amazing individual. And I say, he had said right before I went on the stage in Nashville last year, he's like, we'd love to host you in Iowa next year. I said, Dan, we're coming to Iowa next year. I get up on the stage, didn't even talk to my team or nothing. I said, next year we're going to Iowa. We don't know the date yet, but I know it'll be after the school year ends, and here we are. So they have been loyal. They have been an amazing partner, and we just couldn't be happier to be sitting here in Iowa.
It was amazing.
Yeah, great campus too.
Yeah, it's amazing. You see where the symposium is going to be. Like, it's just you see the wrought iron railing on the balcony. It says class of 1926, right? 100 years ago they put that balcony railing has been up, right? You think about the legacy and who has passed through here and who's been here and just the history here, and it's just pretty cool. And to be here, I'm just so excited to. And just seeing the not only the attendees that are coming here, because really the who's who of who's doing stuff, who's making a difference in their department, in their state, in their geographic area, and then some of the speakers that are here. I'm just so excited for the lineup that we have here. I'm so excited that you guys are here, and that I've got to meet you and get to know you, and to be sitting here on a podcast, which I'm going to assume is going to be episode number 1.
We can move it around. Yeah.
No pressure. No, I'm only kidding. I don't care.
Tell us, did you come from a long line of firefighters? Like, give us a little bit about your story.
Yeah, so I appreciate that. My older brother, who was 10 years older than me, joined the volunteer department when he was 17. I was 7. So I've been around the volunteer fire service since I'm 7. And I just love it. And unfortunately, when I was 26, my brother was 36, he passed away. And I owe everything in the fire service to him bringing me around and introducing me to it. And now my daughter is a career fire marshal and a volunteer firefighter as well in the same department on Long Island that I'm a member at, East Farmingdale Volunteer Fire Department. And it's It's pretty cool. So that's the lineage, right? Is that my brother, then to me, and now my daughter is doing it as well.
Well,
So
you weren't just a volunteer.
oh no, not just a volunteer.
Yeah,
No,
you were
no,
able
not
to
just a
juggle
volunteer. Yeah.
career and volunteer and all of the other things. Like, how did you live in this dual world where you were working full time as a career firefighter,
Yeah.
and then coming home and still being a firefighter?
Yeah, so I mean, what happens is firefighting like becomes your hobby as well as your career, right? It's all the time, but it's a force multiplier because if you're training in one, you're training in both. And like I started a group me in my volunteer department, and it's because I'm exposed to amazing training. I go all over the place. I'm training. I'm always engaged. I'm meeting new speakers, getting new ideas. So I started this group me like 8 years ago, and it's just for members of the volunteer department to share information, because learning happens on so many different levels, so many different places. And you might have specific drill times, but there's no specific time that you should or shouldn't be drilling. We could be learning and drilling all the time, right? Walking around here, looking at the buildings and thinking, there's a church across the street from the hotel I'm staying in, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, all right, if we had a fire here, I'd position the rigs here. There's a multiple dwelling across. I'm looking at that, thinking, all right, what's the secondary means of egress? Just so I'm still talking about it, learning. Met the fire chief, Chief Lyons, for the first time here today of Iowa City. And we were talking about his department, his staffing, and the crew and stuff like that. He's here for 4 years. He's been the chief here, and they've been very supportive of the symposium. So just it's just firefighters, right? That's what we do. But as a two-hatter, career and volunteer, I got my start in the volunteers, right? And then I saw, I was exposed to other New York City firefighters in my volunteer department, and I decided that was something that I wanted to pursue. I'm blessed. I did just about 32 years in New York City, retired in June of 2024. From there, people joke around when I say I'm retired. They're like, "You're not retired. You're living a lie if you're saying you're retired." So I retired from the one career. So it's just a new chapter, a different way to help. And now I help first responders, firefighters, perhaps more so than civilians nowadays. But when you're training firefighters, no one operates alone, right? You have a little piece of their success is, could be traced back to maybe something you said or did or training you did. So it's the whole ecosystem. It's interconnected.
It is. Yeah, I'm a fire nerd, and I'm a second generation. My dad retired in 2019, and I started a little bit late. And FDNY is like the department in the country. It's one of the ones the biggest in the world. And when I was looking at all right, I'm going to test, my wife was like, absolutely not. We're not moving to New York, which was fine. But you gotta know somebody somewhere somehow. And there were at that time there were points for if you lived in a borough, there were points if you had lost somebody at 9/11. And I was like, well, there's no way I'm going to score high enough to get there anyway, but I'm not leaving my wife for the job.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Family first, you gotta be considerate of all the factors. Yeah.
I wish there was some sort of exchange student program that we could get it to, hey, come over to the West Coast, hang out with us for a little while. I think that'd be super cool. But you worked through the ranks at FDNY and then started, from my understanding, this journey into mental health and wellness there, correct? Or was it?
Yeah, really for me, my involvement in any type of research just started organically, and I've always been a student of the fire service. I had some really good advice when I got onto New York City Fire Department. I go to the firehouse. It's not even my first shift, and I meet Captain Gene McGowan. He sits me down. He tells me, learn something from everyone you meet, and read something fire related every day. And that's something that I really took to heart, and I've always done that. So when it comes to reading or learning something fire related, with the exception of a couple of months following September 11th, it's something I still do to this day. And now with podcasts and YouTube, and there's so much stuff out there that there's always something that you could be listening to. I was listening to a podcast earlier today, so I was listening to the Weekly Scrap. Yesterday I was listening to Getting Salty. I'm reviewing a book on 9/11 right now, so I've been reading that as well. So there's always something to make yourself better, or just increase your knowledge of whatever topic it is that you want to increase your knowledge based on.
But when he says this, like, I mean, you really dive deep and you do have curiosity and you do want to sort of like penetrate the layers, which is what you did with our film. I mean, we spoke and you kind of gave me some really good advice about, how to go about things. And then when I sent you the screener, I mean, you really took it seriously. And, I think you said you listened to it riding your bike and then you watched it and then you listened to it again.
Yeah, because I wanted to hear it. I wanted to hear it, right? So I wanted to separate it, right? I wanted to separate my senses, and I wanted to listen to it so I could hear the words to make sure that it made sense, right? And then I wanted to watch it and make sure that it made sense with what I was seeing, because you wanted me to evaluate it, right?
Yeah.
So, that was just the way I was going to.
Does that?
Oh, I'm well aware that I do a lot of things differently than other people. That's, some would say that that's a positive. Some would say that that's a negative. But that's even so. My involvement with research dates back to UL, right? So and some of the research that they were doing, and they were doing stuff in New York. They'd done stuff in Chicago, and I'd been paying attention all the
I think
time.
that's how I got connected to you, was through them actually, and they're like.
Underwrite. Yeah, so they, that's right. They connected me to you. Yes.
Yeah.
So they connected us. But I had been involved with their research. I've done a lot of work with them. They're just incredible what they do. So they were coming to New York to do a second series of burns, and I had taken videos from different fires. So when I go to a fire, if there's a buff there filming, a buff is somebody who just loves the fire service, and so they'll be there taking pictures of video.
But not an actual.
Not a firefighter. No, they just love the fire service.
Like a paparazzi for fire.
I guess, yeah. I've never heard it put that way, but okay, well. I guess it's a paparazzi for the fire service. But we like them, right? They're part of our fire family. But there was this taxi guy who's sitting there, and our hose line is going over. He can't move because of it. So I see it. So I see he was videoing, taking pictures. I said, "Hey man," I go over to his car. "I saw you taking pictures of videos." I said, "Would you mind sending them to me?" I said, "If you do, I'll get this hose picked up right away. You'll be out of here in no time." So he emailed me them, and I have them now with Citizen app, and everybody's videoing. So now it's different. And I did that a couple different times, or I would take video off of YouTube, and then I would add a narration with words on it, not a voiceover necessarily. And I took it and I used the UL research and I would walk through a whole fire. And I did that a couple times. And the folks at UL saw it, and they wanted me to get involved. So of course I jumped at the opportunity, and that was around 2011, 2012.
So this is the flow path.
Yeah, and then the Governor's Island study, the second of the Governor's Island studies. So I've been, so people say, I've read all the UL papers. There's an awful lot of them. To say you read them all, that's quite an accomplishment. Yeah. So most people don't realize how much they've done. I have read them all, and we've incorporated them into FDNY procedures. Like you said, I have a problem with that. And I wound up being on their acquired structure panel. So I was in Sydney, Ohio. I was in a couple of different places in Beaver Creek, Ohio, when we were burning taxpayers and which are strip malls, retail stores, and then private dwellings. And then we were down in Cobb County, Georgia, for garden style apartments, a newer style type of dwelling, to just see how how fire reacted in these acquired real structures. And
can you share what you learned from this?
So lots of different takeaways, but we confirmed a lot of the stuff that we had that we had learned in the lab, in their lab fires. But the firefighters were like, "Well, it's not in a real structure." So we said, "All right, let's get some real structures," and did it.
So classic firefighter. I didn't say it didn't happen.
That's right. Well, that didn't happen in New York.
Yeah,
well,
we do it differently.
But and we saw a lot of the stuff was similar. We evaluated ventilation, a lot of different tactics. We evaluated how the bigger retail, right? So the volume of the store, how much that matters, and how big the fire can actually get with the limited oxygen. So it's always taught, close the door, close before you doze, right? You've heard that, I'm sure. If you haven't, don't tell me. But you should sleep with your bedroom door closed. because that limits the flow path, the ability of the fire or the smoke. Smoke is really what kills you, to go into your bedroom. So if you have working smoke alarms and you have and your doors closed, in an ideal world, you'd also have sprinklers, but that's not residentially. That's pretty uncommon in the United States. But so we'd learned some of that data, and it confirmed it. We saw that one of the big takeaways is for firefighters is not using residential tactics on commercial buildings. Firefighters get in trouble. We go to a lot of residential fires. It's a lot less frequent to go to commercial fires in the fire service. So we're very good at private dwelling fires, but we could get in trouble if we try and use the same exact tactics in these bigger buildings. Today, with the windows, with how the thermal pane windows and the houses are buttoned up, insulated, and what's burning, the modern contents that are mostly petroleum derivatives, synthetics, plastics, they require a lot of oxygen to release its energy. So we wind up showing up to a fire that's really smoky, really hot, but it's not necessarily growing anymore because it ran out of oxygen. So when we open up a window, a door, or if it's a bigger volume area like a big box retail, for example, there's a lot of air in there. So it needs air to grow. It's like Popeye, right? Popeye, if you give Popeye spinach, his muscles get big. If you give oxygen to a fire, the fire gets big. It is a direct correlation. If you starve the fire of oxygen, the fire can't get bigger. But that naturally happens in a private dwelling environment. That may not happen in a bigger area. So that impacts how we search. That impacts the line placement, where we should be stretching the hose line. It impacts a lot of different things. So, and then UL puts out tactical takeaways. They're up to like 11 tactical takeaways from the original acquired attack. They just added 4 new ones from the search study. They're all interrelated and based on making sure that we're thinking about the thermal and toxic insult to the victim, the distance from the fire and the elevation from the fire where the victim is. And when we look at all of this data and we look at the data from the firefighter rescue survey that's going on now, we couple all this together, we can be a more aggressive, safer fire service that's rescuing more people than ever before. And that is incredibly exciting, that we can do more. And when you couple that with the advances in EMS side, in medication, the cyno kits, the carboxyhemoglobin kits that we give to victims of fire, and we are saving more victims today than ever before. There's no doubt. We're not tracking them as well as we need to, but there are movements underway, like I mentioned, the firefighter rescue survey, to make sure that we're capturing that data, because we always talk about the negative. 2 people died in a fire. We don't talk about the 6 that were saved, right? And every day, all across America, firefighters are pulling people out of burning buildings and saving lives. And so much of it goes unreported, and it's not on a federal level. How many saves we make isn't collected anywhere, but how many people die in a fire is. So it's just changing the narrative, right? Hey, we're doing a good job, and that impacts us on funding, on training, on and even just our tactics, our strategy and tactics on how we knowing that the first in engine is finding a lot of victims, that when people are most likely to be found in bedrooms, and the data that they're collecting is data that very closely mirrors data that we analyzed in New York City before I retired. So the research and training coupled with experience, you can't beat that. That is really, when you think about it, and that's how we're able to save more lives. So circling back to the research that I was involved in, when UL came to New York, I was a chief officer, so they invited every chief to go and watch for a day. So I went. They needed a safety officer. I volunteered to be the safety officer, so I went another day. They needed an on-duty battalion chief to go, so I volunteered my company, so I went a third day. And then they needed somebody to go as part of the incident management team, which I was in the operations section, so I volunteered to go. So I found a way to go to as many days as I could. And it just makes you better. You learn the research, because I wanted to know the why. Why are we doing this? Why does that matter? And the crew from UL, they just want to teach you. So they want the fire service to know. And I became a soldier learning about fire dynamics and spreading, and turned into being really a research translator for the UL studies. And then I started looking at and seeing what was going on with cancer in the fire service, and then learning about mental health and what's going on with mental health. And the bottom line is I care because I'm tired of losing my friends. You know, I could sit here, we could talk for a half an hour, and I could just name the people that were close to me that I've lost, whether it's to suicide, whether they might even still be alive, but PTSD makes them a shell of what they were, and cancer. The number of firefighters that I've known that have lost their lives to cancer, you know, some related to 9/11, but not all of them. And you know, we got to do better. We should be doing better. We can do better. There's enough data out there that we need to do better. And quite frankly, when I got the opportunity to review the movie, what really struck me was how it seamlessly wove so many of these different topics. And I call them the blind side issues of the fire service. I have a 2-year firefighter. What do I want him training on? Not cancer, not PTSD, not sleep, not any of these other things. I want him learning how to force a door. I want him to know how to throw a ladder. I want him to learn how to take a victim out. I want him to know how to stretch a hose line. These are the things that 2-year firefighter has to be concentrating on. But at some point, as you evolve in your career, now they have to have some knowledge. They have to have some training in those areas. But it's the people that are more senior in the organization that have to be looking out for them and making sure that they have enough knowledge of that as a young firefighter, not to scare them out of the profession. I couldn't imagine doing anything else. I am the luckiest person on the planet. I have 40-something years in my volunteer department. I served 32 years in the greatest fire department that there ever has been. And like, who's better than me? But I want more people to want to be part of this profession. If I could do it all again, I would do exactly what I did. I would join my volunteer department when I did. I would join the New York City Fire Department when I did. It's just been an incredible ride. But if we're not protecting the new people that come into our profession, we're not doing our job. A leader in 2026, if you're the chief of an organization, you're a leader in your department, and you're not making sure that you protect your people's blind side, you're negligent in your duty. We now have the difference of today and in the 1970s. And I'll use cancer as an example. Cancer was a problem in the 1970s, but it was 60, 70, 80-year-old firefighters. And we didn't have the data to link it to the fire service. Now we have it. IARC, a division of the World Health Organization, a couple of years, changed the profession of being a firefighter to a Group 1 carcinogen. Man, if that doesn't open your eyes, nothing will. So if you're a leader in the department today and you're not doing all you can to protect your firefighters, you're not doing your job. And yes, you still have to train them how to force a door. Yes, how to stretch a hose line, how to be aggressive and make sure we're saving all the lives. But we also have to protect them so they can have a retirement, so they can live their golden years, and do the bucket list things that they want to do. So it just led me to be a research translator. I'm friends with the majority of the people that are doing meaningful research in the fire service, whatever the topic. I'm usually familiar with them. I'm familiar with their work. I want to know about their work so I can translate that to the fire service. And so many of them are woven into this book, which I thought was, which is fantastic that you're able to do that. It looks like a cover of a beautiful book.
Yeah.
And the fact that we're going to play the trailer as part of this conference is pretty cool, and get people excited to really move the needle. And so the blindside issues, like I said, I'm all over the place. That's what happens. It's so late in the day. I had like a gallon of coffee right before I came on.
So yeah, no.
But is, cardiac. It's all those things, right? Cardiac, sleep deprivation, right? Firefighters don't get enough sleep. If I had $1 for every time I went to work and wondered why it was 5 a.m. and I'm still wide awake, I'd come in, start the night tour, I'd have a cup of coffee at 5 o'clock. Tour started at 6. I'd go visit a firehouse, have another cup of coffee. And because the firehouse kitchen table is the center of the universe. And no matter where you go, I love visiting the firefighters and the different firehouses. As a chief officer, I would do that frequently. and as soon as you walk in, they pour you a nice fresh cup of hot coffee, and we sit down and we solve all the problems of the universe. So it's funny that we use the word now, psychological safety. I can't stand that word because it's, and I get what it means, right? It's the safe space in the fire or wherever it is, the firehouse, and that's the kitchen table. That is the kitchen table. But we're calling it psychological safety now. But say it's the
I
kitchen
didn't know
table where we
that.
go.
That
Yeah,
was how okay.
yeah. So that's the word. That's the buzzword in mental health now, psychological safety. But that's the kitchen table. When the kitchen table's functioning right, when the officer's there and the senior firefighter's there and they're leading the conversation, and you know what, you talk about the fire, and you know what, hey, how'd you get to the roof on that fire? I went this way. All right, well. Or, you know what, you're out of position, right? I'm going to hold you accountable at the kitchen table because I care, because you're my brother or you're my sister, and we want to be better, right? It's done. It's when it comes out of the right place, when it comes from the heart, and to be better as a team, that's where it matters, where we could have those conversations at the kitchen table. Because guess what? At the kitchen table is where we're going to talk about the problems that you're having with your marriage. That's where we're going to talk about the problem that you're having with one of your kids, or the problem that you're having, or that that one of your parents just entered hospice and you're having a hard time dealing with it. That's where we talk about serious problems. When we talk, that's psychological safety in the firehouse. It's the kitchen table, and it is the place. But we call it psychological safety. If I go into a firehouse and I start talking about psychological safety, the firefighter's eyes start glazing over on you. But if I start telling them what I'm talking about is the kitchen table, I don't care what you call it, what new fancy words we call it, but that's what we're talking about. So anyway, the leader has to make sure that they're making sure that conversation stays the way it's meant to be, that we're not attacking somebody for the sake of attacking them because the way they look, the way they act, or something like that. But there are times that we are going to come down on a firefighter at the kitchen table, and that is still psychological safety, because I care for my brother and I care for my sister, and we want to be the best team that we can be, and that's what we're talking about, right? Because while we're having this conversation, the bell could go off and we don't know what we're going to go to, and I may need to rely on you. That may be because you're the nozzle firefighter, and I need you to know what you're doing, or you're backing me up on the line, or God forbid I go down, that you need to know how to get me out. That's what it's about, and we need to make sure that we have that trust is built at the kitchen table. That psychological safety is the kitchen table. But leaders, when it comes to, and I'm realizing I didn't finish talking about the blindside issues, so I'm going to go back to the firefighter that's really good, brilliant at the basics. He needs to be brilliant at the basics. That's 2-year firefighter. So he's doing that. And while that happens, around comes the cancer, and he gets tackled. He gets sacked, right? The importance of the left tackle is to protect the quarterback, right? The left tackle makes millions of dollars in football because their job is to protect the side of the football player that you can't see, right? Michael Orr, The Blind Side, see that movie? Even non-firefighters have seen that, right? The quarterback goes back, and I'm looking to throw the ball, but I'm not. This is my blind side. I don't see it. That's the chief's job, to make sure that they're protecting the firefighter's blind side. And the firefighter, the 2-year firefighter, doesn't even know about sleep. Doesn't realize that he's having coffee all night long and doesn't know why he can't sleep, or the importance of getting as close to 8 hours of sleep. Maybe taking a tactical, strategic or tactical nap in the afternoon because you're working a 24-hour tour, or worse, maybe you're working longer than that.
I'm starting a hashtag. It's called Naps Aren't a Crime online.
Yeah. But you think about it. So in the firehouse, the new firefighter isn't allowed to go into the bunk room until midnight and isn't allowed to use the gym in some places.
No, and what's crazy is, like, when I first started, we were working 48s. So it was 2 on, 4 off. And it was your first year, you weren't. And if you were on, what would consider a rescue or the aid car or the box, and you got thrashed, like 17 calls day 1, great. Get ready to do it again day 2. And there was a captain I had that was specifically like, hey, it's time to study, right? I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm studying in the firefighter room. I'm good. He's like, no, take your study material, go to your room and study. Come back in like an hour and a half. I don't understand, because he was trying to convince me to go nap.
Yeah,
He knew we
yeah,
got
mhm,
thrashed.
yeah,
Go nap. It's important. I need you to be. I need you to be on your A game. I don't need a B game. I don't need a C game. I need A game. A game means nap. And so we've created, after probation, naps are more okay. There
yeah,
are still some people, but there was a time, right when I started, from 7:30 in the morning, even though we did shift change at 8, you're in your snaps all the way until 8 o'clock at night.
yeah.
I mean, that was just, and you worked. And there's still departments out there that do that. And, that's why I want to start the Snaps Are Not a Crime, because we are finding that. And it's funny because I talk about napping a lot, and yoga nidra and all of these things to help myself get back to sleep faster. And my third currently, or my back step, he was like, we were up 5 times last shift after 10 o'clock. He's like, did you fall back asleep? I'm like, after every call. He's like, how? I'm like, I'm training myself.
Yeah.
I listened to a podcast about special operations guys, how they fall asleep and they can sleep anywhere. Those guys sleep, my neighbor is a retired tanker for the U.S. Army. He's like, yeah, I slept in the tank all the time. I'm like, how? Like, you just get used to it. I'm like, all right. So I started learning about all these different techniques to fall asleep, because that 10, 15, 20 minutes even between a call is the difference between high functioning driver like myself or possible accident.
Yeah. And I'd work at 24. I wouldn't even care about going back to sleep. I'd be like, I'm just going to stay up. And then after I'd be up for 24 hours. I would drive home and I'd be like exhausted, but I didn't care. I had a busy tour, because I was like, oh, why even go back to sleep? I'm going to get woken up in a half hour anyway. So I just stay up. And I would drive home very happy, but very tired, like I had a great tour. But we're changing the way that's viewed, and a nap should be just that, a nap, right? It doesn't mean you sleep all day. I think one of the challenges now that I think the fire service is facing, well, a couple of them. One is the shifts, working the departments that allow you to work multiple days. I think, I couldn't imagine having to do that. The only time I ever had to work more than 24 hours was a little bit after September 11th, and I couldn't stand it. I'm like, wow, I'm 24 hours in. I got another 24 hours to go. And that was only a short period of time that we were able to do that, because we were short-staffed. But so changing how that is viewed is certainly a big thing. But I think the other challenge is, as the fire service now has these individual rooms for firefighters, is that firefighters should not be encouraged to be in those rooms all day long. Correct. They should be encouraged to be in there for a 20-minute, half-hour nap. And the fire service need to be together. That, the way we operate on the fireground is built off the fireground, on how we do things, right? And how much time we spend together in the firehouse. The fire service has bowling leagues, softball leagues, boys and girls night, all these different things, because they have a direct impact on how we operate on the fireground, because it's building your team, right? And if you want to be the team of teams, that's how it's done. It's having that trust. It's having that that loyalty to one another, that I'm going to be there for you. And that it just doesn't build itself. If the firefighters are spending their day in separate rooms all day long, and then you expect the fireground to operate as a cohesive unit, you're fooling yourself. The firefighters need to spend time together. They learn about each other. They learn about they train together. It matters greatly.
There's like bonding too.
It is. Yeah. So when we have these different bunk rooms, and the firefighter could go in there and you could be streaming movies all day or whatever, that's not good.
No.
We need to have rules. I believe we need to have rules against that, where we could have a certain time, like this, if you want to call it whatever, a time where we could nap, or a time like departments have it where we work out between noon and 2, whatever. And if you had something structured like that, that works. But I think we're moving in the wrong direction if we allow our firefighters to just be gone all day doing their own thing, unless there's a call. I don't think that's for many reasons, that's not the right way to go.
Is there a cohesive kind of like standard operating procedures for across the country, or does every kind of department have its own?
Everybody has their own. There's a lot of similarities, but so there's variations based on climate, based on topography, based on what your staffing. There's a lot of different, based on the built environment. There's a lot of things that are that might be predicated based on that, right? So, everybody, you'll hear people say, we should do this like the FDNY, but you may not be able to, because you may not have the staffing as the FDNY has. But there's a lot of things you can do. And an example of that is we have enough staffing that if I needed 3 hand lines stretched, 3 hose lines, I could get it stretched pretty quick. Where a smaller department or has less staffing has to think about it differently. So I could do a lot of things simultaneously, where another department may have to look at it as, what are my incident priorities, and then sequentially do them. I can do this, and then when these firefighters are done, then they can do this. Where I could have this group of firefighters do this, another group of firefighters do that. It really changes the way you do it. So the equipment that the FDNY uses goes through rigorous testing with our research and development. That's certainly something that is a good takeaway from the FDNY. The culture of the FDNY of taking care of ourselves, taking care of our own. We never forget our brothers and sisters that pass away. We take care of our families. Those are the culture of the FDNY. Certainly something that could and should be emulated. But sometimes the way we do things, not as much. If you're a department that's just starting to get new, taller buildings, certainly we could, learning from how FDNY fights high-rise fires, certainly that would be smart to do, because we fight an awful lot of them, especially mid-rise buildings. But yeah,
I think staffing is the biggest one.
staffing is the biggest one, because we have a lot of firefighters showing up, which is good because seconds matter, right? Time matters. How fast you stretch a line greatly matters, right? We want to prevent the fire from getting bigger. And how do you do that? By putting it out. How do you put it out? By having as many firefighters as you can. And there's staffing standards for that. NFPA 1710 and 1720 are the standards for career and volunteer fire departments for staffing. So and the FDNY meets the standard of 1710. We have enough firefighters on scene to fight the fire. Many departments don't, for whatever reason, but they should be striving to eventually get to that point.
So I'm just learning a little bit more about the career and then the volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
Will there ever be a world that we're living in where everyone gets paid, even the volunteers, or is that controversial?
No, I don't think it's controversial. I think the volunteer fire service will always be a part of the landscape in the United States, and predominantly because there's so many rural areas. So that's as a community grows, that's when the demand on the community, on the volunteers, sometimes becomes too great, where they have to switch and they have to hire career firefighters.
Okay.
That's really the difference. So when you have really rural areas, I don't think you'll see a switch over from volunteers in many of those areas, and the cost to maintain that as well. But yeah, some of the more rural areas, I think, will stay volunteer for foreseeable future.
I mean, it's getting harder and harder too, because one, people don't want to give their free time away, and then two, to stay to the standards. It's a lot of your free time to keep your certifications updated and do all that sort of stuff. So I think it's hard enough for us to get paid folks sometimes that are the quality we're looking for. I can't imagine how much harder it is for a volunteer.
Yeah, and one of the lines I like to use, professionalism isn't defined by a paycheck. I have amazing people in my volunteer department, people that they would excel if they were part of the New York City Fire Department. They just have other career paths, and that's okay. But they're amazing firefighters. So professionalism is defined by your attitude, by your work ethic, by what you contribute to the culture of your organization. Those are the defining things, to me, not necessarily the paycheck.
But they're equally at risk for, right, like all of the things.
Fire doesn't discriminate. So fire will kill you as a career firefighter as quickly as it will a volunteer firefighter. It will also give you cancer just as quick if you're not taking the steps that you need to take. So when I talk about leadership, being asleep at the wheel or not doing their job, I'm talking about all leadership, career, volunteer, combination departments. If you're in a leadership position in the fire service and you're not protecting your people, you're not doing your job.
Such an important message that needs to be heard everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, because if you're not, then, if we don't do all we can to protect our people, then we need to get used to the fact that we're going to continue to lose firefighters. And I'm not willing to have that.
Yeah, no, we appreciate it.
Nor should you.
Yeah.
We are so appreciative, and we're getting.
Only Dina would do that. Only Dina Alley would
only because you harassed me to be here in 30 minutes.
Uh-huh.
And then you talked for
So
40
Dina Ali is the next, she's the next person who's going to be on the show. Although, fun fact, while I might be episode number 1, she will not be episode number 2.
I'm not doing an interview if I'm not number 1.
What if it's 2 1s?
No.
So for those of
No.
you who don't know what's
11.
going on, we have a superstar that's just walked in and
Where? Where's
uh,
this? Where? Oh,
after
oh,
finishing
Dina.
with this superstar
Oh, Dina,
here-
come over here. Come over here in the back a second.
I can't be
No. Well, because I only saw you walk by, so now at least make it where they see who you are
Oh, is this still recording?
and your shirt. Yeah.
This whole time.
But
Yeah.
we're going to stop right now because we know.
Oh,
that-
no, come over here. No, we're not stopping. No. We're not stopping. And that's what I'm saying.
Well,
Like,
I looked at her for like 5
so at
minutes.
least,
I know.
I know.
Hi.
I saw. all right.
All right.
So there's Dina Ali, everybody.
Yeah.
She'll be on episode number 5. Maybe 5 of
Maybe.
season 2.
Well, thanks for having us here.
Well,
and
thank
thanks for your
you.
time. Yeah,
Thanks for
appreciate
being
Is there
here.
anything else you want to like? I don't know. I mean, I feel like you said a lot of things.
I could
We
keep
gotta-
going,
I was
but
gonna say, we need to have
we
you
have a
back for another
but no,
one.
we have a time we have a time crunch here.
Thank
Yeah, we
you
do.
for all your support and for everything.
I'll be on
you
season
do.
2 maybe.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
you're always
You know?
Yeah.
first guest every season.
it.
Okay,
Awesome.
thank you guys.
Learn more about the documentary at spokemovie.com.